How's it going, everyone? Biscuits here. Picture the scene. You've been working your way through the level, wiping enemies out from seemingly endless corridors. In the early level, they were pushovers. So far, you haven't broken a sweat. Recently, the enemies are getting stronger. Not only are they becoming bullet sponges, but they are dishing out decent amounts of damage. Still, it's nothing that your trusty shotgun and a few timely medkits can't take care of. Just then, you enter a large room. It's 10 times bigger than any you've come across before, and you can't even see the ceiling. You've experienced this scenario in the past. You know what's coming. This is the boss battle. You know that you are in for a tough fight, but you're ready. You check your ammo and meds, drop a quick save, and charge towards the enemy boss. Just then, you realize your mistake. You've vastly underestimated your opponent, and they launch a devastating attack, knocking you clear off your feet. Stunned, you pick yourself up and counterattack, but it's at this moment that you know, without a doubt, that you are in serious trouble. The boss reveals their true power and hits you with a special attack that you didn't even know they had. You try your best, but the boss's attack is too powerful, and you are eliminated. It's game over. Time to reload. It's a common scenario for many gamers. If you fail the mission, you die, you start again from your last save game, and learn from your mistakes. In most games you can do this as many times as you like or need to. In fact, many games encourage it, even with in-game hints suggesting saving frequently in case of the worst happening, thus allowing a trial and error approach to gameplay. The whole concept is to try again and again until you succeed. But what if a game lets you fail on purpose? What if when you fail a mission, instead of forcing you to replay the level, the game simply tells you that you failed and carries on, leaving you to deal with the consequences of your failure? There have been many games that do this, to varying extents. Some may have individual missions that allow failure as an option, but some games take failure and make it a feature. My first ever experience with failure as an option was in Fallout 3. I had been wandering the wasteland, exploring every location, talking to every NPC.
You are truly a good person.
Shooting every raider. Basically anything other than looking for my missing father, which was the main quest objective.
Daddy.
Then, in the distance, I spotted a single ruined building, standing above all the surrounding slightly more ruined buildings. As I approached, a woman shouted at me in a threatening manner, but then another voice from deeper inside the building ordered her to let me in. I went in through an old rusty gate, and at that moment, I had entered the Temple of the Union, a safe haven for all runaway slaves. I spoke to their leader, a man named Hannibal. He told me of their plans to build a new home for all slaves who wanted freedom and to follow in the footsteps of their role model, the late President Abraham Lincoln. With that, I had earned myself a new quest: travel to the Lincoln Memorial, clear it of all hostiles, and pave a way for the freed slaves to safely arrive there. No problems so far. But later that night, disaster struck. A patrol of Enclave troopers marched by the Temple of the Union. The inhabitants decided to fight the troopers, but ended up being killed outright. After I had finished off the last of the Enclave patrol, it dawned on me. Every last one of the slaves had been killed in the fight. I wondered how it would be possible for me to finish the quest now that the quest giver was gone. I checked my quest list, and to my utter shock, the quest had disappeared. I had just failed the mission, and the game simply accepted this and moved on. I was stunned. At first I thought the game was glitched, because I had never experienced something like this in a game before, but this was all too real. It was my first taste of failure, with no need to replay the mission. Of course, this was an isolated example because the whole game wasn't like this, but follows a more traditional route. Fallout 4 used Radiant quests, such as the "Your settlement is being attacked, help defend it," as a failure is an option type of quest. But the difference with these is that they provided very little consequence in the event of failure. Some building items would be damaged and need repair, and that was about the extent of the threat for failure. In extreme cases, 1 or 2 settlers could be killed. I played and finished Detroit: Become Human for the first time recently. It released in 2018. I'm late to the party, I know. It was playing this game that I, for the first time personally, truly felt what it was like to experience unbridled failure in a game. I know the feeling in real life all too well. Detroit: Become Human is a player choice, cinematic, story-driven game that presents you with multiple decisions in each episode or mission. Some of these choices can be made without any pressure and without any time restraints, but many others require quick reflexes and almost immediate decision making in the form of quick-time events. During the story, you play as multiple characters. Based on your performances and choices, something as subtle as a particular dialogue option may or may not be available to you, while in other circumstances, the lives of your own character or those around you may be lost or saved. It was the latter scenario that forced me to rethink my approach to the game. Towards the end of a particular mid-game mission, I was required to perform multiple quick-time challenges in order to avoid catastrophe. I failed, and as a result, 2 of my characters were killed in an accident. I was disappointed, but further shocked when I realized that I wasn't going to be given a second chance to save my characters. The game didn't prompt me to try again. They were gone from the game for good. The storyline moved onwards, and the remaining characters acknowledged the loss. 2 of my characters had died, and they weren't coming back. Now, this horrific event was bad on its own as an isolated case, but a morbid thought dawned on me. If the game allowed those characters to die, it stood to reason that all of my characters could be killed. All of these characters that I had spent the past few hours getting to know and care about could leave the game forever. You see, Detroit doesn't view a failed objective as game over. Rather, it allows failure as an option. Further, you can choose to fail to receive different results. Despite the outcome, I never encountered a reload from last save screen. Whatever happened in the story stayed in the story. Ultimately, what this did was make me question every decision I chose from that point forward even more closely. It changed my whole approach to the game and the story as a whole, because I knew that it meant business, and it wasn't going to give me any second chances. Surprisingly, the game even berated me for my actions and for my failure to save the lives of those characters. The game features a CGI person who speaks to you when you first start or prepare to leave the game. On this occasion, she was quite upset with my failure and hit me with the "Why did you let them die?" line, as if I needed to be reminded of my pain. Most games treat failure as game over. For Detroit: Become Human, it's an acceptable choice, used in a way that can shape the story. It's an option for the player to experience and accept. It treats failing the mission as a game mechanic. To be clear, the game does have a failsafe in that it has one character who, if killed, can be replaced enough times so that the story can proceed. However, the game world will acknowledge what happened, and every time you die, the other people in the world will recognize that you are a replacement, not the original.
It's me, Connor.
Connor. Oh, you're not Connor. Connor's dead. I know he's dead.
The previous model was destroyed. I'm the new Connor.
And you lose reputation with them. In other words, you lose your progress with different characters and even future options through the course of the game. So there are still consequences even within this route. As I have already mentioned, I have played games that allow a failed mission to pass, but never before have I experienced it to the extent that I did in Detroit: Become Human. It gave me a sense of realism, and throughout the course of the story, I was constantly on edge, wondering when my next optional failure would present itself. Of course, not all games need a feature such as this, or would even benefit from having it, but this particular design in Detroit: Become Human provided me with a unique, moving journey that I won't soon forget. Have you ever played a game that has a feature like this or something similar? Please let me know in the comments what it was and how you felt about it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Sulu! Attack! Good.